So is that on now?
Yeah, and you can just talk to me.
Okay. So I remember quite vividly that the blackout was on August 14th.
I think it was about 4 o'clock when it went out.
Yeah, when it happened, I was at work.
That is the same date as my wife and my third son's birthday. My son, who was at the time 8 years old, he was with his babysitter for the day, and he and my 4-year-old daughter went to Coney Island to celebrate the birthday. Our babysitter called us and said, well, we're stuck out here. There's no subway running. I've got your kids, and I can't get them home. She managed to talk a guy with a van into driving them back to her house in Brooklyn, and the kids stayed in Brooklyn with her overnight. So it was a real adventure for them. My oldest son, who lived in Brooklyn, he walked from Brooklyn up to the Upper West Side and came up to our apartment so that we could all have dinner together that we ate in the dark.
All of a sudden, the lights flickered at my job. I work in a school, and it was during the day, and then everything just went black. We didn't know what to do, and then it got dark, and I didn't know how I was going to get home. And I left my job. It was dark. I had to use the light on my phone. And I lived in the Bronx. I work in Manhattan, and I had to walk. I walked all the way in the South Bronx, walked all the way home. And what surprised me was that there wasn't any looting. It wasn't like, everybody. There was tons of people just walking in the streets with their phones out and the light on to see. And I got home safely, and it was just a real surreal type experience.
We had many blackouts before, so didn't realize how big it was. But as far as, what we had to do, I mean, there were a lot of people, in New York City, being that many people. And so there were a lot of, a ton of buildings, and there were a lot of people stuck in elevators. I think that immediately that was the biggest problem. And the other problem, from what I remember, was the number of EMS runs where people needed to go to the hospital, but they couldn't take them down in the elevators. So engines got involved in hipping people up and walking them down the elevators, which would take a whole company into service, and that was a bulk of the issues that were going on.
During the day, I was at a business meeting near Penn Station in an office building on a high floor, and when the power went out, of course there were no elevators, so everybody had to walk down from, I'm going to say it was about the 35th floor. One of my fellow workers had left the meeting just before the blackout, and he was in the elevator and was therefore trapped in the elevator when the power went out. And he was able to call me on his cell phone and say, I'm stuck in the elevator, call my wife and let her know where I am. And so he was stuck in the elevator, I think till about midnight, so quite a few hours. In the morning, things had calmed down. It was actually, the city was extremely quiet because there was virtually no traffic. Nobody was attempting to go anywhere. And eventually we were able to get a car, drive out to Brooklyn, pick up my kids who had been trapped there, and bring them back to the city.
What we kept thinking was, okay, they're going to come back on any minute. And the later it got, the darker it got, then panic set in. Because I knew I couldn't get they didn't have Uber then, I knew I couldn't get a cab. And I'm like, oh shit, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? And then it began to just panicking, like, how am I going to get home?
When the power first went off, of course, it wasn't that long after 9/11. And so that brought back memories of, oh my goodness, is this something related to a terrorist attack? There was a significant feeling of nervousness and dread until people realized what it was.
The way the city is today, the way the policing is today, in 1977, they didn't have that kind of, they weren't anticipating that. What do we do in a blackout? today, the police, there are cameras everywhere. The police have everything everywhere. Cameras right above us right now. So they know something happens, they're on the spot. So I think that, I don't think anything different would happen at all.
I think we would see the same sense of community today. This winter we had the major snowstorms, and so the city shut down, schools were closed, people couldn't get around. But once the snow slowed down, and then we had nearly 20 inches of snow on the ground, nevertheless people got out, and there was a great feeling of community and friendliness. So I think we would see the same thing.
I believe in the heart of New York. So I do believe that people would be helpful, although there are always people that, there is fear, there is and there's, a lot of people right now are very much dealing with the fact that they don't have, financially they don't feel very secure, and the prices of things are, so maybe they would be worried about food or be worried about their own family's security. So I believe in the goodness of people, but I do believe that people do have their own concerns, and I wouldn't judge that.
What I realized the next day was that what we can't do without electricity, I couldn't go to the ATM to get money, you know what I mean? And I needed some money. I couldn't do that. I couldn't go into the store, couldn't buy anything. So, I was kind of stuck for a day and a half as parts of the city came back, but I couldn't do anything, and I just felt absolutely helpless. You don't know what it's like when you have money on plastic, because I had a debit card. I couldn't go and get money. I couldn't do anything like that, and I just felt absolutely wow, man, and from then on I started carrying cash on me.
Because I live in a building with an elevator, and I feel like I am dependent on some of the conveniences, and that is an interesting point, because I used to carry cash more than I do now. I really don't think about cash that much anymore, just because everything seems like it's Apple Pay, or you pay with somebody with Venmo, or everything seems like it's electronic. And that's concerning. You can't really have anything if there's no electronic. So we are more computer dependent. We are more device and app dependent. I call an Uber now as opposed to just waving down a taxi.
If something happens where whatever city it is loses the electricity, the power, and you can't do anything, no street lights, or you can't buy anything because you got only plastic, you really realize how defenseless you are.
I think that also, if we were put in a situation where we no longer had that, we would need to adapt. And I do think that we as people are very adaptable. We may be very comfortable with our creature comforts, but I think that when needed, you figure it out.
Bad things go on, we'll come together, and that brought us together in the city. And some people needed help, and there are some people who came out and wanted to help. And I just hope that never happens again. But we're, the fire department of the city of New York we're ready for anything.